Well, Merry Christmas! Seems a little odd in February. Might be more accustomed to Christmas in July, but actually today is a bit of a Christmas feast. By a trick of the calendar, it's the 40th day after Christmas. And in many cultures, today is the day that you put away your nativity scene, where the infant Jesus goes back in his box, and also the day when churches bless their candles. I think way back in the day, it's when we all brought our candles to church that we lit our homes with, and they got blessed. So, Merry Christmas. It is also a Christmas story that we hear today, but one that rarely appears in any Christmas pageant, unfortunately. Poor Anna and Simeon get almost completely left out. How rude to our elders, because they bear us many gifts in this story as well. And it's kind of a happy coincidence that this story appears, a story about a gift exchange on the day that we bring our pledges to church and pledge our own gifts of time and talent and treasure to the life that we share. After all, Mary and Joseph were indeed going to the temple to make an offering to God. In this case, an offering of thanksgiving for the birth of a firstborn son. And so they took those 2 turtle doves or pigeons because they were poor people and that's what they had. And they went expecting to make that offering, to do their duty, as Luke tells us, according to the law of Israel. Not unlike how many Christians throughout the ages have done our duty by making gifts to the church for its upkeep and for our mission. That's basically how we've done it all along. But what Mary and Joseph found, and I hope we might find today as well, was something of a surprise. They went to take their gift, but what they found in return was a gift in exchange. A Spirit-filled gift in the presence of that prophet and that elder, Anna and Simeon, who bore the gift of knowledge, of wisdom about who this child was and what he would mean to that community. They took a gift and received one in this couple who recognized the gift that they brought and returned a gift of their own. I would like to propose to us today that these gifts that we make, these pledges of money and time and talent, are not only pledges to our life together, but pledges to one another. An exchange of gifts meant to create and fund and sustain the kinds of relationships that mark us as a church. Relationships of shared gifts and shared wisdom and shared care. Pledges to one another that we renew every Sunday as we gather here and every time we gather elsewhere as a church. That sense of being in relationship was really driven home and made clear to me because of those who reflected on their own spirit of giving in these past weeks. Becky Hume had me at hello. This is a community that begins this relationship with hello and welcome and peace be with you. And that greeting is the beginning of a relationship that unfolds in hospitality and friendship over time. Allison spoke to us about relationships of care, about a coffee hour that became a rescue mission, that delivered her grandmother and her from real danger and brought them to safety. Philomena and Bob Rauschert wrote about exchanges of gifts that help them create the family they wish to create, that makes a place for their son Will to discover his own relationship with God in Christ. And Ed last week, I think, invited us even deeper into the kinds of relationships that might mark a church. Relationships where we can share our woundedness and pain and discover there an exchange of gifts that lead to healing and to wisdom. And this week, Bob Lindquist wrote about relationships of friendship. Friendship that extends beyond the times that are fun and easy, but accompany us into that shadowed valley of anxiety and illness and uncertainty until we reach that sustaining pasture once more. These are the sorts of relationships that we are pledging to one another as we bring our gifts of money and time and treasure and place them on the table. We are pledging to one another to be the community that creates those kinds of relationships and to fund them. Relationships of welcome and hospitality. Relationships of service and care for each other. Relationships that can hold grief and pain until it becomes clear what wisdom is there. Relationships of hospitality. Relationships that share the work and joy of raising children. Relationships that feed hungry people. And those relationships are not just for those who gather in this room. These pledges of money and time and talent fund and support a building that gathers people together. Scouts and Cub Scouts, prayer groups and recovery groups, summer suppers, walk-in Wednesdays. All of those are ways in which this community becomes a place funded by our work and our time and talent and treasure. This is the place that opens to our community those kinds of relationships in ways that, as Bob and Philomena wrote, we may never know. Those are the kinds of relationships that we are pledging to one another. As you bring your pledge forward today or place it in the collection plate, I invite you to imagine for a moment your own place in the story that we told today. Where do you fit? Are you among the prophets and elders with an encouraging word or the wisdom of long years? Do you find yourself more among that young family, Mary and Joseph, uncertain about the future but hopeful for what might be coming? Could you even find yourself in that infant, unaware of the gifts that you or any baby might bring? Or are you among the onlookers, wondering, invited, encouraged by what you see, but not yet sure how you might enter? What gift are you bringing to this great gift exchange? What gift do you give to the ongoing unfolding of the story that is St. Simon's? As we come forward, I invite you to imagine that gift, and even more, to imagine the pledge you are making to whatever person you are imagining. Hold those people or that person in your mind, whether it's the young people of this parish, someone that might walk into a summer supper, a newcomer, the Scouts, a new rector. Hold that pledge and those persons in your mind as you place it on the table. And as we gather there, and some of us extend to surround the table, we can imagine that as we look at those gifts of bread and wine and money and pledges, let us look also at each other and discover the church to whom we are pledging. Discover the presence of Christ made real in those who pledge themselves to God by pledging ourselves to one another and to the community and the world to which we are called in service.